All right, folks, let's get started. In the last 2 weeks, we've talked about different types of shortcuts. We went through aliases, and last week we went through macros. And now we're on to the third type of shortcut, Lisp routines. These are essentially files that have significant lines of code, and they basically create like brand new AutoCAD commands. And to be honest, I'm still pretty new to this world. For the longest time, only the full version of CAD, not LT, was able to do these, and only in the last year or two can LT run these scripts. So today, my goal is just to give a quick introduction, show you a couple of options, and how to load them into drawings and run them. We won't really be diving into the code or anything, so it should be pretty quick. Here I have the code pulled up for two routines, the HH routine and the cut routine, and you can see here that it's just a lot of code, and this is not anything that I've written. It's just a couple of things that I found online and tested out a bit myself, and they live in these files, which I filed in a specific folder on my computer. And so let's take a look at the HH command. I'm going to explain sort of what it does first, and then show you how to run it. So there's an AutoCAD command called lay ISO, and let's say we need to hatch these elevations. There are specific layers that we typically use, and if we're diligent about our layer management, we can really just highlight those layers in order to hatch our elevations. So right here, I've got our 0 through 6 layers, our Z construction lines layer, and our hatch fine layer. And there's this command called lay ISO. So if you select layers and type lay ISO, it's going to turn every layer off except for the layers you had selected. And this gives us a real clean slate with which to hatch elevations. You can really quickly go in and without a lot of extra information, it's a lot easier to hatch our elevations. And to turn back on the layers that you turned off, lay uniso is the opposite command. So lay ISO and lay uniso. So that's pretty helpful. And this HH script just does that lay ISO command without you having to find those layers and select those layers. So if we just hit HH, it's going to do the same thing. And then all we have to do is lay uniso once we're done hatching. So I think that's a pretty simple one to wrap your head around. We've got another one that I've actually had a request from a couple people about this command that used to live in MicroStation. I think it's called xtrim. And basically what it does in MicroStation is it lets you create a rectangle and delete everything outside of that rectangle and save it to a file. Now this version doesn't do that. It's going to delete everything outside of this rectangle and trim everything outside of the rectangle. So I would recommend typically only using this on a backed up file, and this is going to be for more occasional use. But we can run this command scb, and it lets us draw a rectangle. And so you can see it deleted those objects and trimmed everything outside. So that's the scb command. And you can undo that, like if you mess up your rectangle, but the script does this kind of in multiple steps. So you might have to hit undo a few times. It's important to note that this deletes everything, so you need to use it carefully. So diving into how to install scripts. There's an important note is that unlike other types of scripts or aliases or macros, these scripts are basically just loaded into each individual drawing file. So it's not system-wide. I think it has to do with the complexity that these scripts can have. I think they can get complicated enough to interfere with CAD's performance. So let's say like this cut command, we know it exists, but we haven't really had a use for it. But something comes up and we need to use it to send a detail to a builder, and we can just clean up a drawing very easily. So we save a backup of our file, and then we want to run this command. Well, if you open a new drawing, it won't be loaded. But what you can do is type in appload, and then browse to your folder that this Lisp routine lives in. Hit this cut, and then click load, and you'll notice down here it says cut.lsp successfully loaded. So we close this out, and now we can run that scb, and it works for us. But if we open a new file, and this is just a brand new file, and type scb, it's not going to know because it's on a per drawing basis. But if there's any commands that you think are small enough or beneficial enough, you can have it automatically load every time. And the way we do that is, again, in your app load command. So I think this HH command is worth loading every time. I will personally use it often enough. This startup suite area right here, we click contents, and then I've already got it loaded, but we can just remove that really quick. And I'll show you. You click the add button, browse to kits, Lisp routines, auto start apps. We're going to bring that HH, we'll close. And now if we open a new file, we should be able to hit that HH, and it's going to lay ISO, those specific layers. So just like with macros, I'm not really expecting anyone to start programming these things. I certainly don't know how to do these scripts yet, but if you understand the basics, like, be aware that these are possible. You can do advanced things with them, and if you know how to load them into drawings, that's like really my goal. If you can think of any useful functions that we may be able to create using these, let me know, and I'm happy to help do some digging. You know, if we can dig around on Google for 30 minutes and save a ton of time and headache to do some process, you know, that could really be worth it in the long run. So I think the last few weeks have been maybe a lot to jump into, but I think it will be helpful for everyone to have a basic understanding of these types of shortcuts. And next week we'll probably tone it down a bit and have a much simpler lesson. So stay tuned.